Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 458. Today we're going to take a look at Isle of Skye, and this game was provided to me by GameSurplus.com. So definitely go take a look at it if this seems interesting to you and get it from them. This is from Mayfair Games. It plays 2 to 5 players, and it's kind of like Carcassonne with sort of a set your price mechanic that is kind of like Castles of Mad King Ludwig. So that's pretty glib. Let's jump into how it exactly works, and then I will tell you what I think of it. Okay, so here you can see just about everything that you get in Isle of Skye. You've got here a score track and a round track, as well as the types of things that you're going to score. So let's take a look at that before we talk about anything. Now you can see here we've got 4 different sort of scoring tiles, A, B, C, and D. And there are a mess of these off to the side. So each game you're gonna randomly draw 4. It's gonna be different every single game. And then you're gonna put these in random order. So, you know, one game, even if you drew these same 4 magically, one game, they might be in a different order, which will inform your decisions during the game. So these are the things that you're going to actually score. Now there's a 2-sided board here. This is the 2 to 4 player side. There's a 5 player side on the other side. And you're going to play this number of rounds. So in this case, you're going to play 6 rounds. In a 5 player game, you'll play 5. And then you'll see here at the bottom, you can see it says A, and then B, and then A and C. So as this moves along, you're going to score these different tiles throughout the game. You're going to score each of them 3 times. So at the end of the first round, you're just going to look at A. And you can even, if you want, flip these over just so folks can, you know, focus on one of those. I don't like to do that because I like to see what's coming up, because a lot of times maybe this round I know I'm not going to score that much, or I don't expect to, and I like to sort of plan, you know, for the future. So you're going to move up here, and then again in the final round you're going to score, in this case, B, D, and C. Now the other thing to note is, based on, you know, where you're at in scoring, you will get a bonus, in this case starting in round 3, of $1 for every player that's ahead of you. So if there were 2 players ahead of me, I'd get $2. All the way to the last round, where you can get $4 for each player that's ahead of you. Now it's a very blatant catch-up mechanic, but it's not too bad. Don't let that scare you away. It's a little bit of an obvious catch-up mechanic, but it's not bad. Then you get some points at the end of the game for money and different things, but how does a round actually work? Well, each player is going to get a shield in their player color, and on the back of these shields it has all the steps of a round. So you can see the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get income. Now each player is going to start with the same kind of castle here. So we can see this one, we've got a castle. Each player is going to immediately get, to start the game, $5 of income from their castle to start the game, and every round thereon either's way to get more income as well. So first thing you're going to do is get income, and then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to dig into the bag. Each player is going to dig in the bag, and you're going to draw out 3 tiles. There's a bunch of tiles here. So you're going to mix these up. Every player is going to draw 3, and you're going to stick these in front of your shield, so everybody can see the one that you drew, and you're going to set these separate from your castle. Now you will be able to get, you know, tiles, and the whole point is to build up your sort of kingdom here, but set these 3 separate from your kingdom, and then behind your screen you're going to place different dollar amounts, and each player is also going to have an axe, and so you have to place the axe behind one. Now nobody knows which one you're putting it behind, but this one is actually going to be discarded once we reveal what's there. So maybe let's say I put just randomly here $2 behind that one, and then $1 behind this one. And remember, I started with 5 to start the game, so I'll have 2 left in my hand. And you keep any money that you have left hidden, so nobody knows exactly how much you put in there, and nobody knows how much you have to spend. Now after that, each player is going to take and reveal their screens and remove them. Anything that has the axe behind it, this is going to get discarded and go back into the bag. And then this is going to be the cost now for your tiles. Now this is the start player marker. This is going to rotate around the table every round. So let's say I'm first. Now I can look over, pretend there's players here. I can look over and buy one other player's tile. And the amount of money they have behind the tile is how much I have to pay them. So let's say this was in front of another player. I would have to pay them $2. So maybe I'll pay them the $2. They will get my $2 and the money they put behind it back into their hand. They'll have this now immediately for spending. So if you're going last in a turn, hopefully you have maybe some extra money because players bought your tiles. And so I bought 1 tile and I set it aside, and we keep going around. Everybody has a chance to just buy 1 tile, and that's it. After that happens, any tiles, if you do have any tiles in front of you, you will get to keep. but you lose the money behind it. So maybe there's a tile that you have, you're like, that would work really, really well in my kingdom. So I'm going to set the price really, really high so nobody buys it. But again, you're going to lose that money. And if they do buy it, then they're going to give you a ton of money for it. So you have to kind of weigh that and balance that. Now, after everybody's had a chance to buy all of the tiles, then you're going to actually place and arrange them and then score. So maybe we'll just arrange these like so. Just put them out here randomly. And then you're going to take a look at the scoring. So let's just look at what we drew here. So this one in the first round, you're going to get 1 point for each animal, in this case sheep and cattle, that is adjacent or on a farm. So that can be diagonal or orthogonally adjacent and so on. Now, I have nothing like that, but there's tiles with farms and tiles with different animals. And then in the next round, you're going to get 2 points for each sort of square. So what this means is if I have actually a square of tiles here like that, so then I would get those points. This one here, this is a good example for your largest completed area. You're going to get 2 points for each tile in the area. So you can see this is 4 tiles big, and so that can be very interesting. This one is more of a competitive one. This is whoever has the most ships on the tiles in front of them will get 5 points. Second place will get 2. And so there's just a bunch of these. There's all kinds. I mean, this is, you're going to get 1 point for each completed area. There's another ship one. You're going to get 1 point for each sheep out there. All kinds of good stuff. This one here is going to be vertically, so kind of oriented based on how your castle is oriented. For every 3+ vertical sort of row, you're going to get 3 points. Now let's talk a little bit about the rules for the tile placing. So for example here, let's look at this and let's say that I have this arranged. Now, it's almost legal. Now the only thing you have to worry about on the tiles is the terrain edge. So you can see I've got a mountain edge there, and then a mountain edge here. And then I've got mountain edges and then grass edges and water edges. Now the roads, in this case, you can see this castle here with the road, kind of dead ends. That's okay. As long as the terrains match, you're fine. Now this one is kind of out of sorts because you've got grass on mountain. That doesn't work. So what I've got to do now is turn this like so, and that would be okay, even though, again, the road dead ends. Now, but you've got a problem here because this has mountains there. You'd have to go ahead and turn that one like so. Now you have grass on grass and so on. Now the reason you worry about the roads is some of the scoring tiles that you need to have draw roads like back to your castle. The other thing is for income, let's just set that aside. You get extra income here for these little barrels. If they draw back to your castle via a road, you get an extra $1 of income, which can be very, very useful. So you get that income in addition to the 5 every round. And then again, you just build these up. You buy one each round. Setting the price is very important. And then you're going to start to score multiple of these different scoring tiles per round. So you kind of have to plan for that as well. Now at the end of the game, you can see here you get, for every $5 that you have, you get a point. And that can kind of come into play towards the end of the game because as sort of people's income increases and then you start to get the sort of catch-up money, you might have a lot of money in points and you might just say, well, I'm going to put $20 behind this, and because it's, it's only worth 3 points to me, but if somebody buys it, then I'm going to get, a whole bunch of points because you go 5 to 1. Now you do have these scrolls, which it talks about here. So one example of a scroll here is this one here. You can say you get 1 point for every 2 sheep, and you score these scrolls at the end of the game. So this is another thing where you can get a fair amount of points, especially if you're able to accumulate a lot of scrolls. That can kind of catch you up if you've been kind of missing out on these periodic scorings during the game. Now you can see this one has a little border around it, and what that means is if this scroll here is in a completed area, you're going to actually score it double. Now a completed area, I've talked about that a few times, is if it's completely closed off, and you can have completed water areas. You can see this one just all completed by itself. It's just on the one tile. You can have a completed grass area, which we don't see here, but here I've got a completed mountain area. You can see it closes off here and then here and so on. Now, if a scroll, in this case, is in a completed area, it's going to double, like I said. So normally I'd get 1 point for each of these towers. I think I've just got the 1 here, but in this case it would score me, 2 points because it's in a completed area. And like I said, some of these other tiles here will score you points because if they're in complete areas. So that's another kind of thing to consider. So there's a little bit to chew on. You might be wanting to get some of these incomes. You might have different scoring tiles to count ships or cattle or sheep. You may not, so you may think, oh, well, there's no ship scoring in this, so it's worthless. But you might look at the structure of the tile itself. Can I close an area off, and so on, or does it have a scroll on it, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that is Isle of Skye. What do I think of it? Well, I really enjoyed this game, and it's got a couple elements that I kind of alluded to there at the end of the walkthrough that I really like. But the first sort of crux of all of that is the whole setting the price. And the setting the price thing is very, very cool. And I really, really like Castles of Mad King Ludwig. That to me I like all the cool funky castles and stuff you can build. That's nice. But the whole setting the price thing is the best part of it, because you have the whole thing where you set the price and then you're able to sort of get some money out of it. And you've got that also here where you're trying to weigh, okay, this would be pretty good for me and it might be better down the road, so I should probably set a decent price at it. But if nobody buys it, then I'm gonna lose a bunch of money. But the other thing is, you don't want to set it too cheaply, because if you're afraid of losing money, because if everybody buys your tiles, I mean, you can sometimes, it's rare. I think I've seen it one time. How many times we played this? 6, maybe 7 times. One time somebody, one round, had no tiles to put out because they had no money to buy any tiles that were available. They didn't have enough money to buy any tiles that were still available. It was their turn and everybody bought their tiles. So they had nothing to put out. But that's something you have to be wary of, because it can happen. So I like that aspect. It's just, trying to gauge everybody, figure out what's going on. But you also have this cool thing here of this little axe token to discard one of the tiles. So one example of that, it comes into play quite a bit, was we were in the race for like most of something. I can't remember what it was. It might have been most ships. It was something else though. So my friend and I were tied for second on it, and it was the last round, and we drew it, and you can see everything that everybody has out as available, so you can kind of gander at each other and say, oh, he's got that one over there, that one's got a cattle and a sheep, and the road's nice, mine's good, but it's got the scroll. So you're kind of like weighing and evaluating what everything is worth and trying to figure out what everybody else is going to put it's worth. But we had this thing where it's going to break a tie, and based on kind of the turnover, I was like, well, I'll just discard mine. And then he didn't, expect that I would do that. And he was like, oh, well, I'll just buy that one because he had so much money. But it was like, I think I was first. I flipped it up, discarded that one. He was like, no. And I paid through the nose for it. But it was enough to prevent him from getting second place. And, so there's some gamesmanship that you can do there with, how much money you put, and also which one do you discard. You're like, oh, this might be worth, it's pretty good, but, it doesn't help me that much. I'm going to get some money out of it, but I'm really more focused on these other, scorings. So I'm just going to get rid of it and discard it. So I like that aspect of the game. And it's just, I like it because each tile is cool, because they have just these different ways that you can look at it. You can look at it and say, oh, it's got income, it's got a farm, and the farm is going to combo with this scoring ability, or there's a scroll that is going to give me a point for each farm. And, or can I use it to complete an area off, or can I use it to kind of grow my area and set it up to score some of the tiles that give you big scoring for largest completed area, for example. Maybe I'll miss that first one, but the last two I'm going to really nail and get 12 or 14 points per. So you have to kind of set that up. And just the order of the scoring tiles, the way they come out, they're going to be so different. So that's just going to make you reevaluate what you think is a good tile and all that stuff. So everything feels like very reusable in that way, which is kind of nice. But it really plays very simply. You just draw 3 tiles, set the price, buy one that looks nice, sort of assemble, and you have these very discrete, easy scoring. It's like, okay, I'm going to score this one, this one, this one. That's easy. I'm going to get this many points, and so on. But then there's some layers there to it. But it's very easy and simple to get into. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be that nice, kind of like a gateway game. I think you can almost replace Carcassonne. There's a little bit more going on here than Carcassonne, but I don't see why you couldn't introduce this to, brand new folks. I mean, maybe there's like a setup of scoring tiles that you could do, but once you do like 2 rounds of it, and maybe some of the scorings are a little bit, I hate to use the word convoluted or complex because they're not for me, but as like a new gamer might be difficult to get into, and just sometimes they're just a little bit more tricky to explain. You got to see them in action a couple of times. You could take some of those out and set up more of a simple one, and then play through it. You get that round or 2 in there, and then you're good to go, and then I think people will be sailing right along. So yeah, I enjoy this game, and I would definitely recommend it for folks that are, you know, or like tile placement games and maybe looking for kind of a gateway type of game. And it's just kind of kind of across the board well executed as well. Okay, thanks.